your clients and support yourself.
Yeah.
This is so important.
Yeah.
You know?
So on that note, the reason why I wanted to touch base with you, Saeed, was twofold. A, to touch base, and B, because I do have a little bit of a selfish reason. I'm doing some introspection and some analysis of the Oradell branch itself, and I'm trying to better understand what is the dynamic in Oradell. And now that you're not out of the system because you're still a Chase employee, but you're out of at least the Oradell system. You know, and just to give you a heads up, like, I've asked other former bankers of the firm the same questions that I'm going to ask you, because, you know, one thing that hopefully you took away from me and believe about me is that, and I say it to everyone that I meet, I ask for feedback, and I can almost promise you that I might give you pushback, and in this case I won't, because now I've learned to, like, not give pushback, just be silent for a day or two and then give feedback or give pushback, potential pushback. But what I used to say to people is, like, I can almost promise you that I'm going to give you pushback initially, because I like testing and probing what someone says and not just taking it at face value. But I will also promise you that I'll take what you say and I will chew on it, and it'll stick in my mind for several days, and I will absorb something from it that will make me a better person and that I can change. And so same thing here. So what I'm hoping to do, Saeed, and I'm hoping we can have a frank conversation where I want you to feel like I'm not gonna be like, oh, Saeed, how dare you say that about me? I'm not gonna do that. I'm legitimately going to, listen, and at the same time, ask some questions, because I want to probe further about myself. I am also going to maybe even take the opportunity to clarify certain things, because there were certain things that I did during your tenure in Oradell that maybe I couldn't talk to you about at the time. But I had, I'm getting a cramp. Hold on. Oh, good grief. Give me a second. Ow. Oof, I get really bad cramps lately. Let me turn on the heat. Hold on. I'm in my car. I got to turn on the heat. There were several times in which I would do certain things, and there were reasons behind my doing them. It wasn't because it was to hurt anyone. It was because, I'll give you a quick example. During your tenure in Oradell, and it's funny, I was telling one of the former bankers on your team this. During your tenure in Oradell, I started going to Harvard. And I disappeared for a period of time. And the underlying psychology behind my doing that, Saeed, it wasn't because I was like, F the branch, F Saeed, F the bankers, I don't care about anyone. It was that, as I explained to this former banker, I had gone from having 3 branches and growing at a tremendous rate to then being told by the firm, you have to choose between Oradell and Bergen-Mohler and Paramus. You can't have the two. And it was one of the toughest decisions of my life. I might have even spoken to you about it. I don't remember, to be quite frank with you. I regret choosing Oradell for several reasons, which I'll get into maybe later in the conversation. But it was very heartbreaking, because in my mind, I was like, wait a minute. So because I'm doing so well, you're taking 2 branches away from me to give it to another advisor. Just to be clear, yes, that's what we're doing. Okay. They've also done that with other advisors. They did it with Jeremy Brower. They put another advisor in his branch, and now he has to, instead of there being more appointments, he's sharing the appointments he was receiving with this other advisor. So the firm has this history of doing that. So that was the first thing that jaded me. The second thing that jaded me was, at the same time, we had the Department of Labor happening, where now, as a result of the Department of Labor, I had to give up, I think, something like $10 million in assets, which was a direct impact to my paycheck. And on top of that, the firm then said, not only are we taking away 2 branches from you and cutting you off at the legs, not only do you have to deal with the Department of Labor and 10 million or more in assets that we're taking away from you, but now, if you don't raise $2 million on average over the next 4 quarters, we're also going to reduce your revenue. So I and several other advisors were in a place of like, what is going on? Why is the firm doing this to us? We were jaded, we were frustrated. And that's when I realized, I was like, you know what? My growth is now beginning to be stunted. And that's when I started to look externally for other ways to make money. And I'm sure you remember the commercial cleaning business. That started because I helped a friend in my church, and it resulted in a very successful business, you know, thank God. But I got into it because I was helping a friend, but then I saw the opportunity and I was like, you know what? JP Morgan Chase is taking away from me. Therefore, I have to find other venues. And Harvard then became a part of that. When all of this was taken away from me and I was hurt. I was like, well, I got to do something with my life. I always wanted to go back to school, grad school, and study theology. Let me do that. and lo and behold, Harvard actually accepted me. I never thought that would happen, by the way. And when they did, I'm like, holy crap, I can't miss out on this opportunity. So that's why it wasn't a, you know, yes, of course, there's always a selfish element involved in things, but it wasn't exclusively a selfish element. There was also that aspect of me being so hurt, man, you know, by this methodology that the firm has of taking from those who produce, you know, and so I just wanted to, you know, make that statement. But with that said, can I open the door and just say, hey, Saeed, you know, I'd love to hear what were some things that, speaking to me as my friend, you would say, and please be candid. You could say, Mike, you were an a-hole. You were the biggest a-hole, or not the biggest a-hole, but you were an a-hole, or how you communicate, you know, things to people. This is how, what are some things that you, as my friend, you would say to me? This is something, Mike, that I think you could have done differently during that time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for thinking about me. And I know before I start, between you and I think of all the people I work, especially with all the partners and all the branches, there might be dozens of them. I don't even remember all of them. But you are the only one, maybe the only one, I can safely say that I have misunderstood and you have misunderstood me. That never happened with any other partner. You are the only one. But in my heart, deep down, I know, and I think you must be the only one I remember who I came in the room, closed the door or opened the door, I don't remember, but I apologized. I said, Mike, I am sorry. I apologize. I never said that to anybody because I never misunderstood anybody. I always thought, you know what, people have their strength and weakness. Let me just focus on their strength. Let's not worry about the weakness. That's how I was. But in your case, it was just like, you know, up and down during our time together. There are so many times I thought, you know what could I have do differently? What could I have done differently? What I should do differently? But again, it just, for some reason, it gets influenced by other factors and I get caught up in the moment. So, but I know, I remember I apologized to you. Because I feel like I misunderstood you for who you are. That's one thing. And second thing, if you remember, when I left the branch, a couple of months after leaving the branch, I called you and I said, thank you. If you remember. I don't know whether you remember my apology or I don't know whether you remember my thank you.
I remember both.
Okay, good. So I'm glad you remember. So that I did it with utmost sincerity. When I said sorry, I was sincere. Maybe I changed after that, but at that moment when I was telling you the sorry, it was with the utmost sincerity, and I hate using the swearing on anybody, but I just want you to trust me that at that time I was really sorry.
Yes.
And when I called you to thank you, at that time also I was 100% sincere, and in my heart, it was coming from my heart to thank you because I know your presence made the difference in my branch or whatever I got into the position. Because in order to get to this position, yes, you have to be good in what you are currently doing, right? Of course, the politics, the recommendation, networking, all has its place. But still, before they give you anything else, they'll look into the report card and, hey, what did you do in Oradell? So now being from Oradell from level 6 to wherever we finished, it would not have been possible at all without your involvement. And that's why I was sincerely thanking you because I know a couple of people who I depend on the success of that band, and you were definitely a big part of it.
Thank you,
but
Saeed.
The most misunderstood. So I just want you to understand that.
Thank you.
And now, thank you, man. Thank you. And that is the reason you left me the message on the phone. I immediately call you back because I not just now, I will always carry you in high regard, Mike.
Likewise.
I always will. Because you know what? You are different. You're not an average Joe. You're an above average. You are.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you.
And when somebody's above average, somebody is above average in their doings, it's difficult to understand them. And that's what we do. We did not, at least I did. I did not understand so many times where you're coming from, what it is. Sometimes I back my bankers up, so I fall into the prey. But when I take you and just look at you and your characteristics, you understand a guy. You mean well for everything. You're not only a God-fearing, you are really helpful. For you to say that I've helped the cleaning business, and I'm sure that business must be doing very, very well because the pandemic, those businesses have taken a huge, increase in the revenue. I know your intention was to just help, but I'm sure you must be doing very well there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or your friend must be doing very well.
Yes.
So I know that was the kind of a guy you are, that in your heart, you are a gem of a guy. And I know you mentioned to me about how your mom brought you up and how your family, and it all shows in your characteristics.
Right.
Because you were raised with all that love from your mom and from your parent and your siblings and whatnot. I don't know much about you, but I can tell that that's what makes the man a character. That's what we try to give to our kids. I know how you give to your kids, how you used to bring your two little ones to the branch, and how caring that you were in everything which you do.
Right.
So let me stop. I know that's not the conversation, but I just want you to know, because I may not have told you this, that I respect you, I adore you, man, and I'm always going to be thankful for what you did.
And same here, man.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I think the misunderstanding parts, and I hope, this is a conversation that I hope, because you and I are still employees of Chase, so
yeah.
It's always going to be a risky conversation. So, it's always a nerve-wracking conversation. But I'm going to step out on a limb here. I think that the misunderstandings occurred because, well, the quintessential example of me, for example, not being as present in the branch as I was when I first got here. I don't know if I ever told you that when I first got here, like, I would literally show up to the branches at 8:30 in the morning, and you would have to kick me out at 6:30 at night. And the reason why was not purely because I was getting 3 to 5 new appointments a day. It was also because I was in love with everything that it's kind of like where you are now, where, like, although you don't get 3 to 5 new appointments a day because you're self generating, especially during the pandemic, but you're in love with your position. And when you're in love with your position, it's all you want to do.
I can totally understand now. I can relate to it. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And all of that got soured for me with everything that I shared with you earlier in the conversation. And I don't know if I ever shared those details with you. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't remember. But that is what was happening in my heart, where it almost brings a tear, man. I'll tell you, like, sometimes I get sad thinking about how I went from absolutely loving everything that I was doing at JP Morgan Chase to now feeling like, because of my production, they took away from me. And because I made a poor decision of picking Oradell over Paramus and Bergen Mall, that now, I'm like other bankers I have spoken to who no longer work with us. I'm not leaving the firm because I will never quit, but I totally understand why they're no longer here. I feel what they felt, and I don't think it's by the way, these are bankers that may or may not have been bankers when you were there, But if they were, I can promise you that you had nothing to do with their sentiment, in my opinion. I think it's Oradell. I think, well, I don't want to plant any seeds, but with that said, so thank you for the feedback. Can I ask you, would you say that with all my flaws, would you say that I am the reason why? And please be honest, bro. Would you, because
I will.
Thank you. With all of my flaws, would you say that I am the reason why Oradell is not or was not growing?
No. You on the contrary, when you're talking about the investment part, right? I know the Oradell had 2 advisors, you and the other advisor, but on contrary, the things have brewed up to improve because of you. And I'm being honest to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. It could have been better where we were,
right?
But certainly you were the huge part of the success. And you can look, Mike. There are some clients of Oradell who still calls me. I don't know how they have my cell phone. Who still emails me. They have my email. They email me all the time, check in and share, and I always revert back to, because I don't want to be involved with somebody else being a captain of the ship and everything.
Right.
I moved on, so I'm very cognizant of the fact. But what I was trying to tell you is, those clients will tell you, whenever I speak about you, I have full confidence in what you can accomplish, what you can do. Because your mind was a growing mind. You always try to learn. So you're still doing it. And you will never stop learning. You might be turning 80, you will be still curious and learn, because that's who you are.
Right.
And that's what created a success in Oradell brand, because of your mentality about learning, trying new things, not afraid, anytime new thing. And I know at that time, and again, being honest with you, at that time, I thought, oh man, now he's done some new thing again. Now he's going to try some new experiment again. But then on hindsight, when I think like that, you were never afraid to try something new.
Right.
And jump on it and try it. And I think that helped that brand, because you were open. Because again, I don't want to take the other advisor or name and anything.
Sure.
But he was so done. There was nothing new. You cannot light fire under his ass. So you can't do anything, because he was so much frustrated over the years and it was done.
Right.
So there was nothing he could have done to improve. Either he could just hold on to, or it can go the other way down.
Right.
The brand was going. The fact of the matter, they brought to you as a full-time to that branch is because they needed somebody there besides the other person, because the other person was not cutting it. Actually, we were losing the balances, investment balances. Every month we were losing it, because either his clients have passed away, died, or old, or there was no growth. The growth factor, you were the G factor. You were the X factor in that brand. So that is my opinion.
Thank you, sir.
But when I use the word misunderstanding, my misunderstanding is, now I wish we can ever come back and work together, because now I know you. I would never second guess you. But at that time, I used to second guess you.
Right.
And that have really hurt you, that have hurt the brand, that have hurt me and my bankers.
Yeah.
As a manager, if I'm second guessing my own partner, that was not a good thing, man. That was not a good thing.
Yeah, and now that you say that, so let me clarify something too. So when you mentioned about misunderstandings, I think that is where you and I also maybe, for lack of better terms, would butt heads sometimes. I understand, I better understand your perspective, which is, as a branch manager, it could feel frustrating at the time, as you're saying, to be like, all right, this advisor is trying something new. Okay, now he's trying something else new. Okay, now he's trying this. And it seems that what you're saying to me is, now you recognize that the reason why I was doing that, Dios mío, give me 1 second, please. Don't go nowhere. Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My wife kept calling me, so it was either an emergency or...
Oh, okay.
And it wound up,
yeah.
and it wound up being, what do you want to eat?
Okay.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay. What was I saying? Oh, so I think that so now that we have the chance to speak openly, and well, again, we take risks, right? Because we're both Chase employees still. But, speaking openly as friends, etc. One of the things that I think was a potential breakdown for me was one of my weaknesses. I'm gonna phrase it that way. One of my weaknesses is that for me, loyalty is like an extremely important thing. And what I mean by that is, I always my approach. I'll give you a quintessential example. I have a banker that I no longer work with, and I had a very, very, very good relationship with this banker. And there was one time where he wanted me to do something that I felt was not correct, and quite frankly, I thought was borderline unethical. And I said to this banker, I was like, hey man, I can't do this. And what I did was, afterwards, I had the conversation with him. I was like, I want to be very clear, man. Like, listen, you're my banker, you're my buddy, but this can't happen again. Like, because it was something that I was very much not comfortable with. It wasn't anything extremely bad, but it was bad enough where I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. And as you remember, hopefully, about me, I've always been very particular and protective about my practice, because I'm not gonna risk my license. There's a reason why 20 years now I have 0 complaints on my license. But second, it's also a question of ethics. I'm not going to, for example, sell a fixed annuity to a 100-year-old person because you want PVCs. No, it's not happening. Period. End of story. And with this individual, my approach with him was to correct the action with him, versus me going to his superior, etc. And every relation, Renato Matias, a completely different example. I don't know if you ever met Renato. He was a branch manager at a Bergen Mall that I worked with.
Yeah, I met him.
Yeah, so
he used to come and shadow me when we were in Northville doing phenomenal. At that time, James Asaro was our
Okay, yeah. So Renato and I were branch manager and advisor, and I can't tell you how many times he and I would butt heads about the stupidest things in the world and the most important things in the world. But one thing that he and I always did was we kept it in house. It was always a partnership where he and I would talk about it, he and I would work it out, and it stayed within the house. And I felt like there was a point in time where that wasn't happening between you and I. I felt like, it was exiting the house. For lack of better terms, it was kind of like, no, I don't want to use that example. But I think you could get what I'm saying. Like, the way I've always viewed...
I got it.
Yeah. The way I've always viewed branch manager and advisor relationships are, we're business partners. We are co-owners almost, if you will, of this business. And we got to trust each other 100%. And it's you and I, we work this out, or it's not going to work out. And, there were times in which I felt that wasn't happening. And my mistake was that when that would happen, I would shut down, because my approach, and something that I've had to learn to not do, is that my approach to life was, if this person is not respecting that partnership, then I'm just going to shut down, because I can't operate this way. I operate based on pure trust, pure confidence. I have to know that if I'm speaking to you, that I'm speaking to you and working with you. Now, on the flip side, Saeed, I also came to realize that at the same time, there were other forces working against you and I. And I don't have to state specifically what those forces are. I suspect that you intuitively know what those forces are. But it took me some time to realize that there were forces in play that were perhaps manipulating the story that I was hearing. And the things that I was hearing about Saeed perhaps were not true. But at the time, I had no way of knowing. I had no way of confirming. I had no way of believing anyone. So because of that, the only thing that I knew to do was to shut down. And that's why I would shut down. And I'm sure you would recall me shutting down, where everything would stop, because I didn't know who to trust. And I would be afraid. I'd be legitimately afraid. And in conclusion, because I'm talking more and I wanted to do more listening than talking, it didn't help that you and I had multiple individuals, not just one, but multiple individuals that contributed to this soap opera, as I call it, in Oradell. And because of the soap opera in Oradell, I felt threatened so many times that I was like, who do you trust? Who can you talk to? And that's the other reason why I would shut down, because I didn't know who to trust. I you know, that hopefully that explains a little bit as to why, even when you quote unquote apologized to me, at the time, my heart wanted to say, because listen, man, quick story. I had my former best friend from high school one time imitate an ex-girlfriend of mine, and for a period of 5 years mail me harassing letters and emails saying that he was going to burn my house down. And I took my ex-girlfriend to court. And I told my best friend about this during the whole court process, that I'm legally taking action against this ex-girlfriend. Meanwhile, the whole time it was him. And he would not admit it. I found out because of my own investigative research. And when he finally admitted it to me, he didn't admit it to me. I had to eventually switch the charges against him. But once I switched charges against him, that's when he finally admitted to me. And when he apologized to me, Saeed, I dropped all charges. And I was like, thank you. That's all that I needed. But here's the point that I'm making, is that when someone apologizes to me, I'm quick to forgive. I think it's part of our mutual faith that you and I share, which is, if someone does you harm, but then they seek to make amends, it's within our process to forgive that person. But in the case of what was happening in Oradell, there was so much going on that I didn't know who to believe anymore. So at the time, you know, it's not that I didn't accept your apology, quote unquote. It's that I didn't know who do I trust. And because of that, I just said, you know what? I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to try to lay low. And that's it. So I don't know if that hopefully explains a little bit more of what was going on in my mind at the time.
No, you were right on the point, everything you mentioned, because I know you wanted my feedback, and that's exactly I was going to tell you about my feedback. And I know I have told you a lot of positive things about you, about your integrity, about your man. What kind of a person you are, and about your characteristic. And when I mentioned that, you brought it to the light. You gave specific examples, like you would not do a fixed annuity for the person who cannot have a fixed annuity.
Right.
Even though at the expense of a PVC, expense of the branch, expense of the bringing the money, you would not jeopardize your integrity for doing what is right thing.
Right.
So that's what I meant when you talk about characteristics. Right? So you clarify that. I did not. Now, the second thing I was going to tell you, since you asked my opinion, was I was not going to tell you like, hey, Mike, you were an a-hole or something. I was going to tell you like, Mike, I wish you could have a better communication, open communication. Mm-hmm. But we never did. Uh-huh. We thought of so many times going out to lunch. Maybe we should have, because that was a toxic atmosphere there in that room, in that branch.
Yep.
We could have gone out to lunch, and you and me, just nobody else, could have just lunched together an hour, like how we are talking now. We could have sit and things
clarify things.
More clarifying where I'm coming from, where you're coming from, where we are not in that environment, toxic environment where the walls are listening, the doors are listening, the vents are listening. Yes. So we should have got, but I know it's like we should put and everything, but that's the only thing I regret, that we did not have the communication. So many times I came to you thinking that I'll build that, because honestly that was my intention. But now I know why you were shutting down, why you were lying low, because I thought that, okay, even though I'm coming with all sincerity, but you are not acknowledging that. You still doubt that there's some hidden agenda, which I'm just trying to say to cover it. But now I know that. But now I know that you are just shutting down, and I don't blame you, because I at least had a team, in spite of whether they like me or they don't like me, everything, but they report to me, so they have to respect me.
Right.
But in your case, yes, you were all like a one-man standing. in that branch.
Yeah.
You didn't had anybody to share and be open with, and the only person that would be me as a branch manager, and that's why I said you're in the beginning of my conversation. You are the only one I misunderstood, because I worked with all the advisors, and that was my relationship with everybody,
Right.
even though they were different personalities. Somebody were very good, somebody were drama, somebody was like, it's not all the people. I mean, not everybody is the same, but I did, because that was in my mind as a branch manager. They are my partners. I'm going to give them a respect as a partner, because we have a vested interest in bringing the branch up, in bringing the numbers up. And if we don't work hand in hand, it's not going to work at all. That's why I said you are the only one,
Right.
and there's nobody else. And you are the only one who I apologize, because I felt like I am more responsible for misunderstanding you and not doing it. Because,
I don't know that I agree with that part, because
Mike, I'm older than you. I'm much older than you. You are young, and I have more experience in the management, so I should have used the better judgment. So even now, and again, I was honest when I told you, Mike, when I call you. So many times I think of just calling you, say, hey, how you doing, man? I miss you. Thing. But that mind comes in, and then one thing leads to other. We are busy. I don't know why we are so busy. Even though you think working from home is easy, it's not easy. I work far more hours when I would normally work in the branch setting, Mike.
Right.
Because branch setting, yes, you're done at 5, 6, 6:30. Then you come in, you plugged off, and then at least you have time with family. And when you work from home, I'm starting very early. I'll reach to branch. I used to reach at 9:30, 10.
Right.
But I would start at 8:30 at home, and I would never finish. Even I think I'm getting a call from the client. Like, I had an appointment at 5:30.
Sure.
So maybe. All right, sir. I will continue. I think this is the call to just confirm. Once again, I'll just tell him that I'll call him right back.
Okay, no worries. I'll hold.
Just please hold. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's reminding me of the 5:30 call I have.
Okay.
So this is what I feel. But again, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a conversation again.
Sure. So since I only have maybe a few minutes left with you, since you mentioned that so you said I'm not the reason why Oridel's not or wasn't producing at the time.
No, I know. Contrary, you were the reason why we moved up in that damn piano.
Thank you. So then, what is wrong with Oradel? What is wrong with Oradel?
How are you doing? How is the branch doing now, Mike?
It's the same, man.
Honestly, I haven't checked anything about the branch. When I moved on, I haven't checked anything.
It's the same. Nothing has changed. We have 2 new bankers. I don't know if you hired. Did you hire Dylan Ray?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I know he was in training when I used to go to cover New Milford. He was in training, learning for his license. I think it was in Bergenfield.
Oh, okay. So we have 2 bankers now, Dylan Ray and Zach Murray. They're both RBs, licensed but not CPC bankers. I continue to get no appointments from them. When I ask them why, they say it's because they don't have enough time to make phone calls, quality phone calls, especially because they feel that they're understaffed. I've heard, and I'm trying not to plant seeds because I want to hear your thoughts, and I'm afraid that if I plant further seeds, that I'm going to lead you in a certain direction, and I don't want to do that. And I think you and I think, again, you intuitively know what I'm saying here, but I don't want to be the one to say it, because then I feel like it's unfair. Like, if anything, I think it should come from you. But, how can I continue speaking without planting seeds? I feel, let's just say that they give me the same feedback that I've gotten from former bankers who work there, things that you've heard yourself. And it's the same environment, if it makes any sense, that it was when you and I were both at the branch together. Again, I'm trying not to plant seeds or direct this in any way, because I want to hear from Saeed's heart. What is it? Because if I'm afraid that if I say more, that then I'm leading you in a direction, and I don't want that. I want this to be a clear. This is Saeed's belief as to why Oradel isn't working.
Yeah. Um, yes, so I don't know Dylan. I don't know Zach. I met Dylan once or twice. So I know who he is. But as far as the phones are concerned, the JB was in our call, and he said because I don't know about the Oradell. I hope that the same case. Most of the branches have seen the reduced traffic. Not many people are coming in.
Uh-huh.
Having said that, that means bankers have more time on their hand to make calls, and they are expected to make more calls. They were expected to make more calls now than ever before, because we are moving into the digital world. We are moving into the world where we will be connecting to them either through the phone or through the Zoom or through the emails, and not so much in person, but more so with this everything which we depend on technology. So the company realized that, and I think the force is behind to reach out to the clients more than ever before. There were always goals, there were always number of calling, but I think it's more like a quality call now and more support now than ever before. That's what I heard. Yeah. And I know the branches where I'm supporting, those bankers are doing it because they are more on the phone, and they keep me more busy because they're also talking to the business owners at the same time. They're keeping the advisors busy.
So why do you think that's not happening in Oradell then? What do you at least, well, let's not think about now because you're not there anymore, so you can't answer what's happening in Oradell. While you were at Oradell, what do you think was holding us back?
Okay, now I can totally trust you for this. I think if you take only one person out of the Oradell, that branch will change.
Yep.
That one person have always been a top performer over the 19-20 years because the branch have never performed.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, I respect Abilio. He's a good guy, very good guy. He respects me a lot. He calls me sir. I always respect him, even though he's much younger. When I came to the branch, he picked up the phone. Before me calling him, he said, Saeed, sir. He called not Saeed, sir. I heard that you're taking Oradell. I said, yes, I'm in Oradell, Abilio. I'm following you. He said, and he laughed. I said, why do you laugh? He said, sir, with all due respect, I know what kind of a manager you are. My best advice is to get out of that branch as soon as possible. And I can conference him in. This is what his word.
Yeah.
And I said, and I was shocked because Abilio is not that manager. He is a very hardworking man.
Yeah.
He would never take a route where get out. So I never expected that.
Yeah.
Because he's not that type. So I said,
right.
Abilio.
Yeah.
I said, why would you say so? Why? And then he said, Saeed, I bust my ass off in that branch. And again, this is totally confidential. He said, that one banker there, she's so much work. And I know you could have handled it because you have more years of experience than I do. But it's not about handling her. It's about how she plays the game around her to just make her successful and not care about anything. And that's what I'm telling you.
Amen.
And I didn't realize, because now as soon as I come from that banker, I got all the love, all the respect. Oh, you are the best thing to the branch. You are one of the best managers I worked with. So I got, I can't think of a word, but I got like, wow, why you people are saying she is good. She does what I ask her to do and everything, but why is such an opinion about her? It was not about him. It was a lot of more branches feel the same way. A lot of other branches feel the same way. And then I thought to myself, after a couple of years in Oradell, I said, you know what? If this woman have always been a top performer, I've gone to the trip year after year and year after year and make 60, 70,000 just in incentives, where every time when the banker produce, the branch produce. It goes hand in hand. Everybody, like the banker produce, the advisor produce, branch manager get a better scorecard, the home lending advisor produce, everybody win together.
Right.
But in Oradell case, it was totally opposite. There was only one person who was winning, everything else was suffering. Everything else was down. Before I took the office, yes, we were performing level 6, not only 6, but we were like out of the 240 branches in our peer group, we were 240, 238, 236. That's what happened with Abilio. I looked at the previous records and I said, oh, this is the reason. Now, after 1 year, it took me 1 year to realize, like, this is the person who's really bringing. So what I did, why we moved up, wherever we moved up, and again, I thank you, because no matter what, no matter all the adversity, you still, whatever comes your way, you did it. Maybe not what you did with Abilio or Renato in those days, but you still, during my tenure, you were the only one who brought the new money. And you know the new money totals, what we got in that bank.
Yes.
You were the one, my new money guy was you.
Right.
And the second thing is, when I got Nora, or when I got the other banker, I focused on them, and they had a trust in me, right? So they said, okay, we may not be doing it, and I will protect them from the other banker. I would say, okay, you do what you're supposed to do. I have your back, trust me. And I think they trusted me, they performed, but the sad part is there was always a barrier between her and you. Anytime when somebody would come and work with you, there will be a barrier. You will always be separated from the people who would really want to work with you. Yeah, she may not like you as a person, but she really had intention of working with you. But that never happened because it's one person. Because she will know that once these people start clicking, then something will happen to her. She'll lose her thing.
So let me make sure I understood what you just said, because it got muffled a little bit. I knew you were gonna say what you said, and that's why I wanted to stop, because I didn't want to plant seeds. But you confirmed it. Yes, speaking openly, Silva, she has been a force to be reckoned with, as you said. But you made an important statement to me, because one of the things I was going to ask you, why didn't it work out between Nora and I? And you made an important statement, which is that whenever, first of all, Nora wanted to work with me, she may not have liked me as a person, and that's okay, right? Because that happens. Yeah. But the real problem was that when Silva would identify that Nora was trying to partner with me, she would create barriers between Nora and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Totally, dude. And you know what?
Sometimes, most of the time, not in my presence. Not in my presence, most of the time. But sometimes in my presence also. I'm going to call. I send you the email. Yeah. Thank you so much for it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, bye.
No worries.
So what I was saying is, because even now, Nora is in touch with me, and she's in the city. She takes Mount Clean India, and one of the days, I don't recall, it was last year, December. Yes, it was December. We were talking about you, because she herself admitted, she learned, in spite of all those adversities and everything, she learned a lot from you doing that. And then we were talking about the same thing, and I said, you know what could you have differently? She said, I should have listened to my heart and worked with his good side, rather than rubbing her always on the wrong and giving an impression that I'm out to get him or being a paranoid about him. I should have, because and we discussed the same thing, and I can, and I'm telling you the truth. We can convince Nora, we can have her in too.
No, I appreciate it.
Because she also knows that if she had partnered with you, her numbers would have been different. She would have been different where she wants to be, but it never happened. She said, there was always a hurdle between her and you, and there was only one person
that created that hurdle. Yeah, absolutely. And it's refreshing to hear that, man, because listen, I scratch my head, and part of the problem, and it's 5:30. Do you have to go? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk later. Hey, this was very good. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mike.
Let's have let's do lunch soon. I'll talk to you soon, though, because it's 5:30.
Right.
Thank you, brother.
Sure, Mike.
Be well.
Thanks,
Take care.
Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.